So I want to go over today how to make an API so that you can chat and have memory chat with N8N. It took me hours to do, and but then when I read the docs, it took me minutes. And that's one thing I really learned about N8N is that read the docs, take your time, watch some videos. And typically, if it's taken you a long time or complicated, you might be missing something that they already had planned out. And some of it's just learning. So we're going to make a workflow where we can talk to it with Postman. Let me go grab Postman. And so we can take this particular Postman and use it to chat with the API. So we're going to send it a chat input and a session ID. So we're going to have history and everything. So this is what it's going to look like. And we'll have a tool there just for the heck of it. So you start seeing the power of these tools. Now, you know, there's two things to consider here overall, like a lot. But basically, the reason I'm doing this training series, the reason I want to help teams and developers convert to these patterns is as someone who is a longtime developer with Laravel, we're almost hitting this period where, you know, it's almost like the day like the chainsaw came around and you had these people cutting wood with axes and hand saws. And we as developers just have like a comet hit and a bunch of chainsaws came popping out. And I think we got to grab them and start doing our work with those and not with these hand tools. So one really simple example is like, hey, I could build it the old way. You know, I could build out the code, the controllers, the routes, integrate it with code, with nice libraries, you know, but they're all code and they're our own custom tools and our integration points. I could grab a library from Composer or NPM, and then I can deploy it, right? And then when the developer comes in later on for support or new features, sure, they can do those things. But we're heading into this era where these note sizes kind of represent my sense of like work, right? I could come in and make a workspace. I could say, hey, integrate this with the LLM using their AI agents and deploy it because it is deployed. Now, this can be considered tricky. We'll talk about that eventually, how to deploy without impacting what's already deployed with N8N. And then you come back to it a month later and you're like, okay, we need to add a new feature. And the developer doesn't have to dig into this other developer's code. They're able to just say, hey, here's this well-known N8N node. I know how to use it because there's docs on it. Or maybe it's a custom node, but there's not a ton of code there because it's very focused functions. So my point is, what I'm about to show you might seem like, hey, I could have coded that in no time at all, in less time than it took when I first tried it. It's the future idea of what it's saving in the cost hidden inside of this traditional flow that I'm seeing. So, okay, so let's just start and build this out. Now, let me see here. I'm going to move this over. Let me add a new workflow. And let me see something. We're going to take this and drag it out of here. And then, oops, I'm going to go to that new workflow, just add one. And then I went really wrong here. I started with a webhook, only to find out I could have did a chat trigger. And it just didn't make sense to me. And again, I had to read the docs. So I had to basically say, make it publicly available. And it gave me this URL. And again, docs. They do a good job here. Why did I not read them? I don't know. Anyways, so here we are. And so now I can leave this here. I don't really, not worried about that right now. But then I can say, you know, we want to, and I'm looking at my other screen. We want to say load previous session. And we want to say from memory. Oops. And then we want to make this respond using a webhook. And again, this is a common pattern I'm seeing in N8N. I just wasn't clear, like, there is no webhook here. And I started with a webhook, these APIs, but we're building an API without a webhook. So it's just an interesting paradigm shift for me there. Okay, so we have our particular route, basic CRUD stuff. Now, we have this, which we didn't have a moment ago. And so what I'm going to do is connect that to my Postgres, which is the coolest thing because I have a Postgres database, which might be Supabase, but I'm treating it as, yeah, it is. I'm treating it as Postgres because it is. And I want to make sure I get the settings right. So basically at this point, I messed up a ton. I had it using the wrong session ID. I had it, you know, but it's going to make the table for me if it doesn't exist. It's going to set everything up for me. I mean, this is game changer in how much it saves for us. And as a team, you have these consistent patterns defined before your team hits it, right? So, okay. So now we want to add the best feature of all is the AI agent. And so we're going to, and let me get my settings open. We're going to just leave the defaults, take from previous node, trigger tools agent. There's options there, and leave this, and that's it. Yep, that's it. So at this point, because it's so awesome, because the AI agent, you don't get it. There is no PHP library out there that can compare with this. And that's why I'm shifting towards this, because making backends with this over PHP or whatever is a time-saving decision. We can still build front ends with whatever we want. We can still build back ends with whatever we want. But once you want to do complex, not even complex, even simple workflows, once you want to start integrating with AI, just open up this and you're done, right? So, okay, so I'm going to give it an OpenAI chat model. And you could maybe easily use one of these other ones, like Anthropic, but remember to read the docs, because I was using Llama only to find out they didn't have tool integration. All right, I'm going to use ChatGPT 4. And this is already set up with my account. So you just click the pencil, add your account. It even tries and shows you if it's working. Just the nice details. All right, so then we do this one thing where we're like, yeah, we need the memory, but we're going to share the memory right here. Let's do that. And then we want to add some tools for the heck of it, right? So the one that a lot of people add is a calculator, because, this stuff isn't great at math, so you can help it out, and it's a fun one. But I'm going to do the HackerNews one, because it's just whatever. It's just a tool. You can make your own. You can connect to other workflows. Like, that's just huge. So, and once you think about that for a bit, you'll just, like, the fun you can have with this stuff is just crazy. All right. So here we go, HackerNews, calculator, and then we want to add our respond to webhook. Let's see, respond. I am looking over there for typing or spelling, because I am bad at spelling. Okay, and we're going to leave it at its default. So now we have this respond to webhook. Now I'm going to click save. Now I don't think, with webhooks you can usually have a test URL. I don't think this does that. Let's go try that. I'm totally curious. So let's go replace that, and we'll just send it. I don't think it will work. Yeah, it's not open yet. I'm wondering though, if I put a test here, what happens? Just curious. Yeah, okay. So we have to now publish this. Now the cool thing here, maybe this is why they don't do that, is that you can now chat with your project, right? So oops. And we get to watch. Again, just these little details are crazy awesome. But we get to watch the green line showing how it's processing. So the latest N8N, which this might not even be, has this nice path. So I, as a developer, can get a sense of what happened. And if I go to here, I even get a better sense of what happened, where I can then copy it to the editor and have state now, right? So I can progressively, I can just see what's going on. How did it work? That's how I kind of figured out what should my API request look like, right? And I don't use the action one. I probably should, now I think about it. Maybe I should use that now I think about it. Let's think about that as we throw Postman at it. But yeah, so we saw now in the chat message, which closed because I switched screens, that guy had here we go, had this thread of what it did. This is really cool. Now let me go to Supabase for you. I should have had this window open. Let us see. So you'll see here, it's starting to make a conversation thread with the particular session ID, so we can have history. I didn't have to code any of this. I just can't emphasize enough how hard this is to keep a consistent pattern amongst teams. All right, so now if we were to open up, if we were to code a front end, if we were to use Lovable or Cursor or Bolt, if we were to use Laravel, we can then point to that API and send something. So let's see. I'll do this thing really quick. So here's my session ID. I'm going to go grab it from here just for the heck of it, because I didn't even think about this till just now. And I can go here and say, can you TLDR it for me, right? So, oops, let's go do this. So I never said, let's make this live. All right. So now when I send that, it will take a moment to respond. Didn't have to code it, didn't have to do all the history, the database, and we have memory, right? Like, I've built this stuff before by hand. I know what it takes. And I know when I bring in another dev to help with the support or whatever, I know what it takes. I have no, there's no like, this is, it's challenging because it's a paradigm shift for us. So again, we can quickly go to here and have less debt. So yeah, that is a sense of how you could use N8N to build out a quick API for your applications to use to chat with. Now, N8N would let you embed this into a system, and I'll show that some other time. So you don't even need to potentially build an API. You could just embed a widget into a website. But in the meantime, yeah, I just want to show how you can make that particular API to talk to from your application. All right, that's it. So make sure to subscribe, to share this with others. Consider me in my training course for you or your team, and we can talk more that way. But all right, thank you for watching the video.